I often hear that life is bigger than sports, or there's more to life than sports. I've heard that my whole life, being a sports fan as I am. And yeah, I would say that's true. I mean, I just have had my first son born. That was huge, and just celebrated my first wedding anniversary. There is a lot more to life than sports. That is true. But when I look at things, I could tell you where I was the exact moment Barry Bonds hit his record home run. Shoot, I could even tell you where I was when I saw the breaking news of the tragic passing of Kobe Bryant. I'm sure Ed could tell you exactly where he was when Robin Ventura tried to charge them out against Nolan Ryan. We know these things, and my point that I want to say is that life and sports can be synonymous. I think it could be one. So when I saw the news of Fernando Valenzuela passing as a Giants fan, that it was sad to see because as we know, Fernando Valenzuela was a tremendous pitcher for the Dodgers. His rookie year will go down in the record books as one of the best rookie years of all time in the Major League Baseball. So it is sad to see the tragic news of his passing. And for you sports fans out there, I'm sure you all know Fernando Valenzuela. And for the Dodgers going into this World Series, they're going to be missing one, and I'm sure they'll be playing in his honor, and it'll be emotional. But Fernando Valenzuela should be celebrated, and he had a tremendous life that he lived. So, from all of us here at Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights, we want to say that we are saddened for the pass of Fernando Valenzuela. But let's go ahead and get things started here. I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and this is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode here at Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and with me today, we've got quite a crew. It is a full house. We've got Ed Smith.
Welcome, y'all.
We've got David Street.
Took the words right out of my mouth. It's a full house indeed.
And we've got Thaddeus Lloyd. It's a pleasure to have all you guys here today. It's really nice. It's the first time we were able to have all four of us here on our Wednesday NFL show. And well, we've got a lot to talk about. And since it's a full house, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I want us to talk about review of the last week's games. And pretty much last week's games and this week's games is going to be a tale of two different weeks because you're going to see the level of competition between the games here. But let's start with the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. We were very heavy on this game because this could very well decide the NFC North. It is a very tough division, and these are two of the top teams on that division. I know Ed's got something to say about that, but the Lions are looking like they are one of the best teams in the NFL, whereas the Vikings were pretty much holding that number one seed or best team in the NFL for 6 straight weeks. Well, the Detroit Lions picked up the win on the road, 31-29, which was a phenomenal game. And Ed, I'm just going to ask you right now, Detroit Lions, they playing some of the best football right now in the NFL, or certainly on top of the NFC North?
They are definitely playing some of the best complementary football that the NFL has right now. Because with the way that they can run the ball, chew the clock, be efficient on offense, that is leading to the defense not having to play hero ball to keep them in ball games. And the marriage between the two has really risen the profile of the team as a whole and got them through this game.
Yeah, and it's all pretty much starting with their leader, Jared Goff. he is playing such clean football, and I'm sure everybody saw the crazy stat online. What was it over the last 3 weeks that the Detroit Lions have more touchdowns than he has incompletions? I mean, he went 22 for 25. He is absolutely layering the ball for 280 yards. And David, I want to ask you this because I've noticed kind of a trend lately in the NFL that quarterbacks aren't having to bolster big numbers to win. Remember the time where you were watching the Big Bens and a lot of the other quarterbacks, they were having to throw for 400 something yards a game. Well, that's not the case anymore. And just like Ed said, David, it's very complimentary football with the run game. Why do you think that is where it's been changing to where they don't need to throw as much?
Well, I think it's just as simple as there's always an NFL evolution. The NFL is always evolving. And I think for quarterbacks, it's great that they've gotten to a point where they don't need to throw the ball as much anymore. And yeah, for the Lions, it certainly was a balanced attack. You talked about Jared Goff's stats, and you look at Jahmyr Gibbs. He went off on the ground. So I think it's just yeah, like I said, I think it's just evolution.
Yeah, very well could be because me and Thaddeus were talking about last week Patrick Mahomes against the Niners. Niners are a great defense, but if he were to bet, he would take the under. What was it, Thaddeus? Maybe 250 yards.
Under 240 yards passing.
Who would think Patrick Mahomes is throwing that low? Well, guess what? He did. So it's like Patrick Mahomes was always known for throwing for 300 plus yards easily, and well, he's not really needing to. And most of these quarterbacks aren't. Sam Darnold didn't. He also had for the most part, a pretty clean game, 22 for 27, 259 yards. He did have one interception though, so quarterbacks nowadays aren't having to throw as much, but this game was a big game because this was the first time we were going to see the Lions without their defensive player of the year candidate in Aiden Hutchinson. And well, I feel like they showed up. They did great against the best team in the NFL at the time, and that was the Vikings. So Lions, they're pretty much the top of the NFC right now. But Ed, to go into more depth here, how close and how even really was this game?
I don't think I have seen a game with this kind of stat line in my life. In my 48 years of watching football, I don't think I've ever seen a game where both teams had one turnover, eight penalties, sacks allowed the same, which was four, and the same number of yards per play a game, which was seven, and the same percentage of third down conversions. It's it was insane looking into this game as far as a stat recoil, and you saw that the Lions wound up having just seven more total yards than the Vikings, and all that combined just shows exactly how high level and even these teams are right now. And the fact that the Lions were able to get just that one extra play, that one extra kick at the end of that game, they could still be playing to a tie if that clock had kept going. It was just insane for me to look at this and see just how steady and even it was across the board when looking at the stat line for both teams.
Yeah, this was such an evenly matched game that it's no surprise that the team whose star players were a little bit better ended up winning the game. And the Lions star players were just a little bit better than the Vikings star players all across the board.
Yep, I mean, it matters who shows up on game day, and I mean both these teams did, but one just a little bit more, close to 7 yards more. So it was definitely a playoff type of matchup, type of game, and well, so was this other one. Even though one was represented by the AFC, one by the NFC, I'm talking about the Houston Texans and the Green Bay Packers. This was like a playoff atmosphere representing both AFC and NFC. It was a fun game to watch. What was even crazier, though, to me was the stat line of CJ Stroud's and the fact that it was still a 2-point game. It blew my mind. David, if I were to tell you CJ Stroud went into this game and he was going to throw less than shoot, I could say 200 yards. You'd say probably not. Less than 100 yards, you'd think I'm crazy. CJ Stroud threw for 86 yards, yet they only lost by 2 points. What does that say about this Houston Texans team? And then same thing with Green Bay Packers. I mean, Green Bay's pretty atop of the NFC right now too. Wouldn't you agree, David?
Oh yeah, for sure. And as for the rest of the Packers, I'll let Ed talk about that. But I'll just say that for the Texans, what does it say that they were within 2 points despite CJ Stroud having a horrible passing game? Their run game stepped up. Simple as that.
Yeah, Joe Mixon coming back from injury, 25 carries, 115 yards. He's been doing great since he came to Houston. But yeah, Ed, if you want to talk more about the Packers, and then I'll pass over to Thaddeus.
Sure. So one point that I will make about the Texans is before talking about the Packers is their offensive line just could not hold up against the Packers rush. And CJ Stroud and Joe Mixon were yelling at the offensive line, trying to pump them up and saying, "Give us time," because he was under duress the entire game. Now, as far as the Packers offense, Jordan Love, he has what I'm seeing from him at this point is he's got the demeanor of an Aaron Rodgers, but he's making throws kind of like the gunslinger of Brett Favre. He is. There were several throws that I saw him make that appeared to be not uh, not safe. They were hero balls being thrown down the field, and he got caught up a couple times, couple interceptions, but he follows that up with 3 touchdowns for 220 yards. He's he did well, keeping an even keel despite the highs and lows of the different throws that he was making. One player that stood out to me outside of Jordan Love was Romeo Dobbs. After the suspension that he had a couple of weeks ago, where he was held out, he's really making a case for himself to be the true number one receiver in the Packers stable of wide receivers because he's been the most consistent. He's a nice big target for Jordan Love to get to, and he's been able to make plays that some of these other wide receivers have dropped over the past couple of weeks, whereas he has been able to step up and carry that wide receiver room.
Yeah, it really is fun to watch Jordan Love and his development. And Thaddeus, what I want to ask you is we always heard when Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were retiring that, well, what's the next level of quarterbacks going to be like? I think it's safe to say that the NFL is in great hands because, well, two of these young quarterbacks that played in this game, CJ Stroud and Jordan Love, would you agree the NFL is in good hands with the future of the quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah, I think so. We got a lot of great talent coming out. As far as like QB classes, it's been a mixed bag. Last year's draft was pretty good, but then you had horrible drafts like 2021, 2020, 22, I think as well. Just not great classes, but then we've had more like later round picks that have been pretty good. The only thing with it though is fatigue, and that's due to Patrick Mahomes. If Patrick Mahomes wins his third Super Bowl in a row, I think people are going to start getting fatigued because I've heard that or been thrown around like, the Chiefs just keep on winning. It's only Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has not had a real rival yet. Everyone thought it was going to be Joe Burrow, but he's only beat him once and he can't stay healthy. And what's crazy to think in Patrick Mahomes' career, okay, this is 7 years, right? He's only lost twice. He's only lost to two quarterbacks. Joe Burrow once in the playoffs. Joe Burrow once and Tom Brady twice. That's all he's lost to in the playoffs. So we need to have another rival for Patrick Mahomes was what the league really needs. We have young talent. Yes, we have Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, phenomenal young talent, but it's not really going to matter that much if they can't beat Patrick Mahomes.
Josh Allen says, "Am I a joke to you?"
He was 13 seconds away. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. They will always refer back to that game
Yeah.
for years to come. It was brutal, but hey, a win's a win, and Patrick Mahomes winning and Mahomes has been synonymous in the playoffs for many years for him. That one loss coming from, besides the Tom Brady one, is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the Bengals seem to always give them a good competition. Well, this last week, they didn't really face much competition again with the Browns. The Browns guys, I mean, I know they have one win, but they have to be probably the worst team in the NFL. I mean, this
Yeah,
is
that's still the Panthers, but they are certainly a bottom 5 team. Yeah.
yeah, it's the Panthers. That's another one with Bryce Young with that draft. Who knows if he's even going to be there much longer, but he is going to start this week. But the Bengals and Browns, it wasn't a pretty game by no means. The Bengals should be a whole lot better than this, but they just aren't. I don't know if Joe Burrow's just not fully healthy or if this team just can't click. But this is a team that is supposed to be in an AFC Championship game, probably against the Chiefs, or in the playoffs. For the most part, they don't look like a playoff team at all. They're barely scraping by. But yes, like I say, wins are wins. But this Browns team is just not good, and we did see Deshaun Watson go down with an Achilles injury. I hate to say I told you so, but I just knew that he wasn't going to get out of this year healthy, and that's exactly what happened. That offensive line, which at one point used to be the best in the NFL, has just been horrible for Deshaun Watson. They really can't seem to get anything going. Nick Chubb came back from his horrible ACL injury last year, did get a touchdown in his return, which is awesome to see. I don't think anyone will ever have a season like Adrian Peterson did when he came back from his ACL injury, but that guy's a freak of nature. But so is Nick Chubb. Have you guys seen Nick Chubb do his squats? All right, that guy is not human. I don't care what you say. He is not human at all. But if there is someone that will come back from it, it is him. So we'll see what he does next week. But from here, Ed, do you see the Bengals still making the playoffs? And then Browns, where do they kind of go from here? I'll let you answer them in both parts.
Well, the Bengals, they are just fighting to keep pace with the rest of the AFC North. Your Steelers and the Ravens, they're trying to run away from the Bengals and Browns, which they could just do a light jog and be running away from the Browns at this point. Uh, but as far as where the Browns go from here, they've got two decent backup quarterbacks that they can choose from, either Dorian Thompson Robinson or Jameis Winston. Which this we all know the story of Jameis Winston. You know, where does he wind up to where he can actually grow instead of retreat from the height of his powers? Because he is not old enough to be retreating from his best playing days in the NFL. So, where does that happen? Do the Browns give him a shot? Do they give Dorian Thompson Robinson a true opportunity to showcase his skills so Miami can pick him up in the offseason now that Tua's gone? Uh, whatever that looks like. You know, the fact that the Browns are not being basically held hostage of starting Deshaun Watson, as bad as he's been because of his contract, maybe they can explore some opportunities for a less expensive quarterback to shine in this position that Deshaun Watson has basically got his thumb over the organization.
They should have just brought Joe Flacco back, but I mean, the Colts snagged him up, and yeah, it sounds like Jameis Winston is going to get the start. I'm pretty sure I did see that, and also Kevin Stefanski is giving up the play calls to Ken Dorsey now offensive coordinator. So, David, does this make a big difference, if any difference for the Browns at all, having Winston start? Now you have a new play caller on offense.
Well, I think it does make a little bit of a difference. I think they are. I think the Browns are going to be better with Winston. Not a whole lot better. There's a reason why Jameis Winston is a backup right now. But Ed is exactly right that Deshaun Watson has just he's just been a shell of himself with Cleveland. I know you talk about the offensive line, and it's true that Cleveland doesn't have the best offensive line. But honestly, I feel like a lot of the damage that Deshaun Watson has taken is completely self inflicted. I think one of the most misleading stats is sacks, actually, because if you didn't watch a game and you look at a box score and you see that a quarterback got sacked 7 times, well, your automatic assumption is going to be, well, the offensive line must have played a horrible game, when actually at least half of those sacks could have been the quarterback's fault because he was holding on to the ball for too long and he was running around when he had absolutely no reason to. So, yeah, just tough time to be a Browns fan, like it pretty much always is.
Thaddeus, I am starting to believe that QB sacks are a quarterback stat, not an offensive line stat. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's actually what came to my mind is, you have your offensive line, they protect the quarterback when he's passing. Um, so it's their job to protect them from the defensive line. However, that doesn't help when the quarterback permanently, purposefully runs into the defensive line. And that's all goes down. And that's actually pretty probable because that goes into the big thing, QB pocket awareness. How aware is your quarterback going to be aware inside the pocket? Quarterbacks who have elite pocket presence, like Patrick Mahomes, hardly get sacked. Why? Because they have the pocket presence to know where the defenders are and which way they're coming from and whether to throw it away or scramble. And then there's QBs who have horrible pocket presence, like Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones, who get sacked all the time because they have no clue where the defender's coming from, and it just comes out of nowhere, and that's a sack or a forced fumble by the defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one quick example I'll give. Funny enough, Jameis Winston, his last year with us, he got sacked like 40, 50 times. But I remember advanced metrics were saying that the Bucks actually had a top 10 offensive line. The issue, like you were saying, Thaddeus, was that he was just holding on to the ball for too long. And then we get Tom Brady. We don't make a lot of changes to the offensive line. We made some changes, obviously. We added Tristan Wirfs, freaking stud. But other than him, we don't make a whole lot of changes. But of course, the difference between Tom Brady and Deshaun Watson is that Tom Brady had elite pocket awareness. And during his time with us, certainly the first 2 years at least, he was one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. So yeah, you could have a great offensive line, but at the end of the day, your quarterback has to help you out.
Oh, absolutely. And if they're giving up these sacks, they're making these plays where it's not manageable anymore. You're having third and longs. It makes it tough to even convert. So, great points there. Well, we just talked about him having great quarterback or pocket awareness, and that is Patrick Mahomes as the Kansas City Chiefs faced off against the San Francisco 49ers. And yeah, both these quarterbacks may have great pocket awareness, but what they didn't have in this game is they didn't have great defensive back awareness because they threw interception after interception. It was not a pretty passing game for both these quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes had a rare stat of throwing for 0 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. Granted, he did rush for one, but that's weird to see with Patrick Mahomes. He was playing a good Niners defense. Brock Purdy, on the other hand, also 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He did run the ball in twice, so he was responsible for 2 touchdowns himself. But is this just a game that it was better defenses, or were the quarterbacks just having an off game? Thaddeus, I'll ask you, being the Niner fan and all.
Well, as a Niners fan, this game is very sad to see. but it wasn't totally unexpected because the Chiefs and Andy Reid have absolutely had Kyle Shanahan's number the past 7-8 years. This has been going on now. But both defenses are actually, the Chiefs defense might be the best in the league. When the young Patrick Mahomes era, you had him throwing 400 yards a game, 50-yard bombs every time. Now it's completely flipped, and now he's becoming more like Tom Brady, where he's entirely relying on the defense. The crazy stat that I got from that game, I believe, the Niners held Patrick Mahomes to the worst QBR of his entire career. He had a 35 QBR during that game, and he still won. Yeah. And that because of that Chiefs defense, because they intercepted Brock Purdy 3 times. One of them was a bad red zone read. One of them was an overthrown ball that was intercepted. That Chiefs defense is just so elite and so good. And I think it's all due to Spags, because look what you're seeing with Snead in Tennessee. He's not working out for him very well. I think it's because of the scheme, honestly. But that defense is super elite. The Niners defense, people expected them to be better. They're not great this year. We're missing Greenlaw. Yeah, it has not been great, but hopefully we're going to get better during the season. But actually, our defensive backs are really good. So I think it was a matter of good defenses, but the Niners offense just struggled really badly against that Chiefs defense, because the Chiefs defense could stop the run, which is Kyle Shanahan's bread and butter, supposed to be. And then once he couldn't get that going, he couldn't get the passing game going really much anyway. And then you have the Chiefs offense, and the reason they won is because Andy Reid's adaptable. He can change the script. So he was able to, run the ball. Chiefs are really good because they're having positive play every single play. They're 4th in the NFL in positive plays, even despite Patrick Mahomes having more interceptions than touchdowns this year, which is crazy to think, but that's what's been happening. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I have to give the Niners credit really quick, David. I have to give the Niners credit because not often are you seeing a team pretty much have their special teams as their starting wide receivers. This team is dealing with so many injuries. We saw Brandon Ayuk out for the year, torn ACL. And you already didn't have who is it? You didn't have one of your receivers already going into the game. Jawan Jennings was out.
Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel came out after the first play because of pneumonia or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice being able to see Ricky Pearsall, go Gators. There you go, David. But they're practically playing their special teams as their receivers right now. Not often are you seeing a 3rd string receiver or 4th string playing, but that's how it is. The Niners having to work with what they have. I don't know if we'll ever see Christian McCaffrey play at all this year. I mean, the Madden curse is alive and well. I hate to say it, but it's true. So I'll give the Niners credit for, trying to stay in there, but it's just not pretty right now because of the injuries. David?
Yeah, no, definitely. Just, a few things. One, I think Thaddeus can take solace in the fact that a couple years ago, the 49ers were 3-4 before reeling off 10 straight wins. And where are you guys at right now? You're 3-4. So, keep the hope alive. And then also, I can't help but notice that this Chiefs team right now reminds me of the 2015 Broncos, where they had elite defense but dog shit quarterback play. And we need to be honest about Patrick Mahomes. He's been dog shit, okay? He's been terrible. He's been trash. He has not been good whatsoever. And then Thaddeus, I feel like you could answer this better than any of us can. But what's been up with Brandon Ayuk? Because I did a little bit of research, and this is the first time that he's been held scoreless, whether receiving and or rushing. It's the first time he's been held scoreless through his first 7 games of a season. And yeah, so what's been up with him?
Well, now it looks like I think he got an ACL sprain, so he's out for the rest of the season.
Oh, that sucks.
He's out. Yeah, he's out for the rest of the season. We're not going to have him again. So now our receiving core is going to be week to week Deebo Samuel, Ricky Pearsall, 1st-round pick, Jawan Jennings, who in my opinion is probably the best 3rd receiver in the whole league. He's really, really good, but he was hurt. He's coming back. And then I hope we get Jacob Cowing out there, the return specialist who had that big catch last week. So I'm really excited for that, actually. Cowling should be a good player. It's just for some reason, Cal Shanahan doesn't like him. And instead of puts in Ronnie Bell. And when Ronnie Bell's in, bad stuff happens. You know when Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL? Ronnie Bell was on the field. Okay? So this is what happens. And he dropped. He has like 4 drops, and he's like the 6th receiver on the team. It's crazy. Okay, but anyway, about that. But with the problem with Ayuk is he was the first season he's held out, so he missed the entirety of training camp, and he really his first real action. He didn't. The first day he trained was 2 days before the Jets game, the week 1. So it took him a while to get into football shape. And then it was like week 4, week 5, where he had 120 yards receiving. Like, okay, he might be back. But then as soon as he's back, he tears his ACL. So
yeah.
there's a positive and a negative to this. Positive for Brandon Ayuk is that he got his money. Okay. The holdout was worth it for him because, when it's NFL, it's not for long. You're going to get injured. So you want that guaranteed money as much as possible. And he got it before the season. The negative now is that he's injured and he's not going to be playing. But he wasn't really doing much to begin with this season, though, because, again, he wasn't really in football shape. It took him some time, and Brock Purdy was just throwing to other people. So I don't really know like what's going to happen with this, but it's just something interesting, and it's same old 9 IRs, or.
Yeah, it's I mean it makes you wonder to the players that do plan on holding out, is it worth it getting the money or knowing that you may get hurt? Because that's what it seems to be happening. I mean, don't wish that upon anyone, but a torn ACL, people are probably wondering, would that have happened if he did participate in training camp? So
Well, at the end of the day, you gotta feed your family, and I don't know if Brandon Ayuk has a family of his own, but certainly if he did, it makes him holding out more than understandable.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, next game that took place this last Sunday was the Ravens and Buccaneers. Ravens end up winning at 41-31. Before I really go much into it, I'm going to have actually our very own David Street talk about it. As a Bucs fan, what was your perspective and just how good the Ravens are?
So just slight correction, Monday night,
Sorry,
not
Monday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
I got you. So I'll be completely honest. I thought we were going to roll all over the Ravens, primarily because I thought the team would be inspired coming back to Tampa after the hurricane had devastated us. I thought they would have something to play for, and I don't want to accuse them of, you know, of not doing anything like that. But as for the game itself, everything seemed to go right for us. We go up 10-0. Really should have been 14-0. But Tristan Wirfs got called for a hold. Now, whether or not that was actually a hold, that can be a discussion for another time. But the point is, he did get called for, a hold, and we weren't able to get a touchdown, and so we have to settle for a field goal. But okay, what the hell? 10-0 is still nothing to scoff at. But of course, we know what also happened. Mike Evans gets hurt, and that pretty much deflated the entire stadium. And then just the defense was trash just all game, especially the secondary. I can't count how many times Baltimore's receivers were wide open. I mean, I'm watching the game on TV and I'm thinking, where the hell is our coverage? We have so many breakdowns in coverage right now. Lamar Jackson is just throwing to anybody he wants right now. And then, of course, it's bad enough that Evans goes down, but then Godwin goes down. His ankle does something that an ankle should not do. And listen, a lot of people were very, very, very quick to breathe fire onto Todd Bowles, and certainly I wasn't very happy as well. But usually when something happens like that, of course you're going to be overtaken by emotions. Logic usually doesn't set in until the next day or two, and the next day I have to say, I don't know if I blame bowls there, and the reason why is because the Bucks were starting to make a comeback, and we recovered an onside kick, right? And it doesn't seem fair to me to criticize somebody purely based on hindsight. I mean, it was a freak injury. It sucks. It sucks that it happened. Again, we were making a comeback, and you also have to understand that at least up to that point, the NFC South was a two-horse race between the Buccaneers and the Falcons. So every win matters. Everyone matters.
Absolutely, it does. And well, winning is pretty much all that the Ravens know how to do lately after starting out 0-2. They have they've really figured out the formula to success, and that is, well, hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. But on top of that, Lamar Jackson is having, another MVP type of season. But Ed, just how great and historic has this Ravens offense been?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked. But may I make a point about Baker Mayfield?
Absolutely, you can.
Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, did his best Dak Prescott impersonation, where he got all of his yards, all of his touchdowns, all that stuff after the game was pretty well in hand. Uh, them just trying to lead back into the game. David, would you agree with that assessment? Yes or no?
I mean, maybe so, but I also can't help but feel like you're talking as a Texas fan right now. Because I know Texas fans don't like Baker Mayfield. It's cool. I've got nothing against that.
I don't even think about his college career because I don't care about him. Yeah.
No, but no. In all seriousness, I think with the way the result was, I think ultimately, yes, you are right. But also, if the Bucks had miraculously come back from down, I think the largest we were down was 24 or 23, something like that. Then, of course, we'd be singing a different tune. But of course, that's ultimately not what happened. And now we have to figure out how we're going to beat the Falcons, and we have to figure out how we're going to adjust because as fantastic as Liam Cohen has been, right? Certainly, it helps when you have two of the best receivers in the league, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and now both of them are going to be out for a while.
Yeah. So back to Matthew's question about the Ravens running game. We all know about some of the more prolific offenses that the league has ever seen in a single year. Correct? We're talking 98 Vikings. We're talking 80, uh, 84, I think it was, 84 49ers.
The year the 49ers went 15-1, if that's what you're thinking of, was 84.
And then
The
uh, the greatest
86.
show on turf, the 2000 Rams. Well, of those offenses, the the 2000 Rams had the highest per play average uh, in NFL history at 7.0 yards per play. Right now, the Ravens are beating that metric at 7.2 yards per play. They are beating in the running game the 1963 Cleveland Browns, who had a 5.7 yards per rush average for that 14 game season. They are beating that average by half a yard. They're at 6.2 yards a rush every time they touch the ball at this point. So when you have King Henry, who has settled into the Baltimore offense quite nicely, and using Lamar Jackson as a second option to be thunder and lightning between those two, it has just been devastating. And the stats are there to prove it.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially because personally, I consider the Rams' greatest show on turf to be the best offense the NFL has ever seen, in my opinion.
Yeah, they were an incredible offense, incredible show to watch. That is for sure. So, yeah, it makes you wonder, where was this Ravens offense the first 2 weeks? Maybe they were just trying to figure things out. Uh, I'm interested to see how, if this offense was doing their thing week 1 against the Chiefs, how that game would have taken place. So it's all the what ifs, but they may face again this year.
Well,
They were just on the line.
Well, you know that meme of the guy. It shows him like sitting on a chair, and then it shows him kind of like getting up off of the chair.
Yeah,
I'm
That
out
was
of
like,
here.
yeah, right. Like that was the Ravens pretty much after losing to the Raiders week 2. I mean, after they lost to the Raiders, they were like, okay, we need to start taking this seriously now.
Yeah, well, we talked about it on the show, actually. I think it was after week 2, after they lost to the Raiders. And the big stat for them was they were not giving Derrick Henry the ball in the second half. Well, look what they're doing now. Derrick Henry is a fourth quarter machine. Like, oh, you know this Derrick Henry guy? He might be good in the fourth quarter now. Oh, yeah, let's run the ball. And look, wow, I think in back-to-back weeks now, he's had like a 70-yard plus rush in the fourth quarter.
Well, and it's insane because usually when running backs hit their 30s, that's when their production goes down. That's when they decline. But Derrick Henry is just one of those rare cases of getting better the older he gets. He's aging like fine wine, as they would say.
yeah, and he's just so damn big. It's probably that expensive, diet and plan that he has going on. It's working. Whatever he's doing is working.
That picture of Derrick Henry standing next to Mark Ingram will never not be funny.
Never. Right? It's just not fair when you see that. This was one running back. Well, here's the other. Damn.
I knew he was big, but I didn't know he was that big until they mentioned on the broadcast. I did not know he was like 6'4", almost 250. And
Yeah.
he ran almost 22 miles per hour
Yeah.
on that 80-yard run. And I was like,
It
you
defies.
got a full lineman basically coming at you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Running, yeah.
It's
that's
not
just
fair.
insane.
It defies all laws of physics as far as I'm concerned. But Thaddeus, how did we do last week?
Yeah, so well, Ed had another great week again. He's gone. Let's see. Yeah, I think you only had one loss last week again. Yeah, Ed's had he struggled the first 2 weeks, but now he's been pretty much an expert since
I'm
week
the
3.
I'm the Baltimore Ravens of the picking machine.
I guess so.
Oh yeah, there you go. So Matt, you pick Saints no, Falcons no, Detroit yes, Niners no, Jets no. So yeah, so you went
1-4.
1-4. I went 2-3 because I picked the Broncos, Falcons, Vikings, Niners, Steelers. Yeah, okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
you're more brave than me, Matt, because you can pick against your team. I can't.
Yeah.
So that's cost me 2 wins this year. I
I
just
get
can't do it though. It's like last year. All the Niners were favored in all their games last year, and I just can't help myself.
Yeah, I've picked against my team twice this year. One I was right, one I wasn't. So I mean,
Yeah. Well, you were only right the first time because they lost in the last 20 seconds.
yeah, against another horrible team. That Cowboys team's horrible. So
Yeah, I can't wait for the Niners to get back on schedule Sunday night, and then we have
Yeah.
the bye week, and we're getting Christian McCaffrey and hopefully Dre Greenlaw back. That'll be fun.
yeah, that'll change things. So
Yeah, so you are at 15-20. Ed is at 24-11, and I am at 18-13. No, 18-17.
okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna go 5-0 this week. I'm getting back into it, baby. Let's go. It all
Maddie,
starts with
yeah.
game one. So first game on the dock is the Philadelphia Eagles going into the jungle to face off against the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are horrible at home. They're 0-3 at home. And I feel like they should have beat the Browns more last week, but it's also a division game, so I can't really put that against them too much because division games usually get the best of you. So, but Eagles 4-2, 2-1 on the road, and Saquon Barkley is having a tremendous first year for Philadelphia. He really is. He's living his best life in Philly. Whereas Jalen Hurts is not off to a really great start. at quarterback, but they're winning games. They have the Ravens formula, just hand the ball off, but hopefully you'll win, and they are. Bengals, on the other hand, they're starting to figure things out more and more. Joe Burrow is playing some of the cleanest football there is out there. His offensive line has been banged up here and there too. But they are 0-3 at home, which makes it tough for me to pick them, but I'm going to go with the Bengals this game. I think that they are close to getting back to where they need to be on track. They know they need to win games, especially with how the Ravens are playing. And if they go 0-4 at home, Cincinnati's going to eat them up more than they eat up Skyline chili. So I'm going to go with the Bengals winning this one. We're going to go 24-21. Ed?
Well, this is another one of those defensive sack stat games, in my opinion. Right now, the Eagles, they are fifth in the league in sack percentage. And when you are facing Joe Burrow and that offensive line, it's a recipe for disaster. So, uh, with that, I'm going to go ahead and take the Eagles in this. And uh, probably not going to be super high scoring uh, because the other half of the equation is they're a better running team right now than what the Bengals are. So we're probably going to see somewhere in the neighborhood of 26-18.
Okay. Okay. Thaddeus?
I am gonna take the Bengals with this one. I just think the Bengals are already down right now in the division, and they need to keep on winning like they have. They had a bit of a struggle bus game against the Giants, and then you'd think you'd be worried again because they struggled against the Giants, they struggled against the Browns, but the Browns is a little bit different because that's an in division game, and AFC North games are close no matter who's playing. Even if the Browns with Deshaun Watson are absolute trash, it's still going to be kind of close. So I think the Bengals are better than what they've shown the past 2 weeks. And I just think Joe Burrow can tear up that Eagles secondary pretty bad. Um, I'm going to take the opposite perspective of Ed. I do think this is going to be a really high scoring game because the Bengals defense has not been great. They've been bottom five in most categories. And I just don't trust that Eagles defense at all either. So I'm going to go Bengals 38-28.
Okay. David, you got a quick prediction for this game?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bengals, and actually, I'm going to go a little crazy here, and I'm going to take the Bengals over the Eagles, 37-16.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know. I just have a feeling that the Bengals are going to dominate this game.
Well, speaking of high-powering offenses, the Miami Dolphins have not been that since the Tua injury. Well, they are getting Tua back, and it makes you wonder, are they going to be back to where we're used to seeing them? Is this going to be the Miami Dolphins team that put up 80 points like they did last year against Denver? Was it 80 points? I mean, they put up
70. But you might
70.
as well call it. It felt like 100, if we're being
It
honest.
really did. It was just score after score. They just dealt with a lot of injuries. It's weird not seeing Tyreek Hill top the NFL with receiving yards, but it just shows you how receivers sometimes don't play as well when they're starting quarterbacks out. So Miami Dolphins, they get their quarterback back. I'm sure there is a bet out there for over under of how many snaps till his next concussion, but I just hope that this guy hangs up his cleats at the end of this year for his mental health because it's really horrible to see it. But the Dolphins who are getting back, Arizona coming off a really last minute win against the Chargers here. This is a toss up. It really is for me because both these teams have not looked good at all. But I'm gonna go with Miami at home, getting their quarterback back. I don't think they're going to be clicking fully yet, so it's not going to be super high scoring. I'm going to go 21-17 Miami. Thaddeus.
Man, this is a tough one because you got the Cardinals, and I actually watching the beginning of that last game with the Chargers, I thought the Cardinals were going to lose that.
Yeah.
But then they ended up pulling out the victory at the very end there. And James Conner, man, what a running back. He was literally carrying the entire team on his back that game. And I always thought he was a really good player. So the offense has actually been running through Connor and not Marvin Harrison, like some people thought, because Kyler's just too inconsistent to be considered a focal point of the offense. So you have that, but then you have Tua. I believe Tua's coming back for this game, and Tyreek Hill has definitely struggled without him. Even though he was voted by players last year as the best player in the entire league, he has not looked like that since Tua got hurt. So I think Tua is a big part of that offense. Him coming back will help out a lot, I think, if he's not concussed. If he doesn't, snap his neck this time. And then, unlike the first couple games, you have Raheem Mostert coming back, which I think should also be a huge boost. I still don't know about that Dolphins defense, though. I'm still kind of iffy on them. And then the Cardinals defense is very iffy at times too. So we're going to see two very iffy defenses versus two very up and down offenses. It's really a toss up for me right now, but I'm going to have to agree with you, Matt. I'm going to take the Dolphins in this one. Let's go 17-14.
Ed.
So, you're right. James Conner did carry the Arizona offense on his shoulders this past week for sure. Uh, and basically for most of the season, actually. Uh, Kyler Murray needs that running game to make what he does that much more effective. And they have complemented each other very well so far to the tune of they are hitting 5.5 yards per run. And when you stack that against a middle of the pack rushing defense, I'm taking Arizona in this game. This is going to be the game in which Arizona is able to keep the clock running. They will be able to take some shots down the field with Harrison, and just I'm not going to say run over Miami because I think there will be uh, some excitement around Tua coming back, but that timing is going to be off just enough to where it's going to give Arizona the victory on this one.
Yeah. David, what are your thoughts?
Have the Dolphins, aside from the first game, I think, even scored 20 points at all this season?
I don't think they have.
Yeah. Well, even with getting Tua back, you have to imagine that there's going to be some rust there. So I'm actually going to take the Cardinals by a score of 23-19.
Okay. And David, since we have you right now, the Bills and Seahawks. Why don't you preview that game? Because the Seahawks coming off a very impressive win over the Falcons in the NFC South. I wasn't expecting that. How do you see this game going?
Well, when you look at the Bills and Seahawks, to me, this is a game that could go, either or. I think both the Bills and the Seahawks are having good seasons. Seahawks just recently came off a 3-game skid, I think, before getting a good win against I don't remember who. And then of course the Bills are the Bills, right? But ultimately, when I look at this game, I have to go with the Bills here because one, I think you're at a point in the season where you have to ask, okay, who are you going to trust more? Who are the players? Who are the veterans that you're going to trust more? And no offense to Seahawks fans, but I'm going to trust Josh Allen a little more than I'm going to trust Geno Smith, right? But I don't expect this game to be a big blowout or anything like that. I'm going to take the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills by a score of 24-22.
Thaddeus.
Yeah, here we go. Another tight game, potentially. This You got Geno Smith, who is sneakily leading the league in passing right now. And you think he's been up and down, but he's mostly been carrying the Seahawks team. And then you saw last week the Seahawks finally got their defensive line back, which I've been telling you. No starters on their defensive line. Their defense has been horrible. They lost 3 games in a row. Well, now they're back, and they completely obliterated the Atlanta Falcons, minus a couple runs here and there. So I think the Seahawks defense might be back. And then, of course, you have the offense with Ryan Grubb, the former Washington head coach, right? I think.
Of course,
And
yeah.
and those weapons are just fantastic. But now you have the Bills, who just got Amari Cooper, and it seems like they might be doing better than before. And yeah, I'm just gonna have to take the Bills on this one. Josh Allen is just too good. He's better than Geno Smith. Surprise, surprise. So I'm just gonna take the better quarterback in this position. I think both defenses will make plays because while both defenses I don't think are top 5, the Sean McDermott has always coached good defenses, and then Mike McDonald's finally got his D line back. So I think he should be fine. I think it's going to be a close game as well, but I'm going to go Bills 21-17. And then
Ed.
who did you have, David, again?
I had the Bills
You
beating
had
them. Yeah, 24-22. Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why Geno Smith is leading the league in passing. It's because they they are the Seahawks are the number one team in throwing the ball. Uh, Completely abandoning the run is part of their game plan, apparently, because they're passing it uh, 2 out of every 3 plays. There's no idea of a running game in that organization right now. So that is so of course he's going to be leading the league in passing. But you know which of these teams has gotten more interceptions? That's the Bills. Having to throw that much is going to give the Bills more opportunities to challenge those wide receivers that the Seahawks have and get a couple of uh, get a couple of picks off of them. And then on top of that, you're talking about the number 3 uh, rushing TD per game team in the league in Buffalo because Josh Allen is just a man inside the 5-yard line. It's 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 coming and you can't do anything about it. I'm I am picking the Bills as well, but I'm picking it as a much wider spread than you guys to this point. I'm taking it at 34-13. I think this is going to be a trouncing.
Yeah, I'm going tight here. I'm going to go Bills 17-14 on the road. Ed, Washington, they are going to this game against the Bears, possibly without their starting quarterback. Right now, I know he's questionable, and Jaden Daniels. How much does that really swing this game? Because Washington is really caught the NFL off guard this year. They're 5-2. 3-0 at home. Bears, though, as well, 4-2 so far this year. They've looked great, but how much does that change if Jaden Daniels does not play in this game?
Jaden Daniels' it factor is a huge part of them being 5-2.
Yes.
And if he's not going to be on the field, or if he's even a shell of himself, then Chicago wins this hands down. So there's not, a stat that I can go back and say, this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. This game is going to be about quarterback moxie. And if Jaden Daniels can't be on the field showing his moxie, then Chicago wins. And that's where I'm going to go as far as a pick. I'll go ahead and take the Bears on this.
Yeah, we're watching the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners square off. It's crazy how it works out because I'll never forget the year Marcus Mariota won the Heisman, and then who's probably going to be playing in this game instead of Jaden Daniels. So he was drafted number 2 after Jameis Winston in the year's draft, and they played each other the first week. It's just like I always remember that, and this isn't the first time. That wasn't the first time it happened, but I love seeing it. It would be awesome if Jaden Daniels was playing against Caleb Williams, last 2 Heisman Trophy winners. But I'm gonna go based off of him not playing. Mariota is probably going to be taking the starting reps and be the starter. And although I love Mariota, he's no Jaden Daniels right now. Caleb Williams is really turning this Bears team around. What they did in London against Jacksonville, I was impressed big time. So I'm going to go Chicago winning this game on the basis that Jaden Daniel does not play. I'm going to go probably 21-10 Chicago. David.
Well, it's crazy. Of course, before, if you had told people that Washington, Chicago was going to be must-see TV, you would have been laughed at, and certainly would be must-see TV if not for Jaden Daniels' unfortunate injury. But the thing is, when you compare these teams, they've practically been polar opposites. Washington has been winning mostly on offense, and Chicago has been winning mostly on defense, with Caleb Williams coming more into form now. But with Marcus Mariota playing in replacement of Jaden Daniels, I gotta go with the Bears' victory here. And not only that, I think the Bears are going to win pretty convincingly. I got them beating Washington 30-13.
The Bears. Thaddeus, quick prediction here.
Quick prediction. Well, even if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, Marcus Mariota destroyed the Panthers just as much as Jaden Daniels did. This will be the true test to see if Jaden Daniels is the system or he was a part of the system. If Marcus Mariota goes out and throws 3 touchdowns against that Bears defense, we have a problem on our hands. I'm going to take the Commanders in this one.
Okay.
Give me 17-13.
Okay. Well, way to be spoiler. But Thaddeus, I'm actually going to let you preview this next game, Baron, because it is your San Francisco 49ers. These are 2 teams, Dallas Cowboys and the Niners, that can't afford to lose any more games, and they've been looking pretty ugly. So what are your thoughts on this Sunday night football game?
Well, I expect it. Well, the Niners, we love the Cowboys. We over here, we love them. Okay, we beat them 5 games in a row now, twice in the playoffs. We destroyed them last year at home. This is another home game, I believe. Yep, it is Sunday night football. Last time we played the Cowboys on a Sunday night game, we won 47-10 or 47-17 or something like that. But that was with a full healthy roster, and you might be thinking, "Oh, Niners are injured. What are they going to do?" Well, they're going to win like 21-10 because Dak Prescott, for some reason, keeps on throwing 2 interceptions against the Niners defense. We might be getting Christian McCaffrey back soon. Maybe this game might be the first game. I mean, if we don't, Brock Purdy's always been really good against that Cowboys defense as well. I just still think I'm gonna I'm gonna take my team again. I'm pretty biased. I can't help myself, but I really do think the Niners, just like how the Chiefs have the 49ers number, I think the 49ers have the Cowboys number. So I'm going to take the Niners.
Okay, you guys score prediction?
I said like 21-10.
Okay, all right, gotcha. David.
Well, I'm happy for Dak Prescott because he's got his money, but he certainly hasn't been playing like he's earned his money, right? But I cannot see the 49ers going 2 games below 500, and ultimately I think they do have the better team. I think they do have the better roster than Dallas. So give me San Francisco over Dallas by a score of 24-17.
Ed.
this game to to see both teams pull up to the stadium is going to be interesting because I have a feeling that San Francisco is going to show up in an ambulance and Dallas is going to show up in a short bus. Because that that's really the feeling that I get between these two teams right now. Uh, at this point, Dallas is 31st in the league in opponents' red zone scoring percentage. They're giving up a score 74% of the time in the red zone at this point. Against Shanahan, that is
Yeah.
that is not going to bode very well for them. And also, uh, we found who the second highest offensive passing quarterback is in the league, and it's Dak Prescott. And as we've talked about before, he gets a lot of his numbers from being down, way down into the third quarter before he just starts flinging the ball everywhere and pads his stats. So this is this is going to look a lot worse in the third quarter than what the final score is going to be because that's just the pattern with Dallas. And I'm going to take the Niners on this one, and I will take them 38-27.
Yeah, just real quick, obviously it's understandable why the 49ers have a losing record right now. Primarily, it's because of injuries, so there's really not a whole lot you can do that. But is anybody surprised that Dallas has been average at best? I mean, what they remember, Ed? We were talking about the season they had. I mean, yeah, they signed CeeDee Lamb, they signed Dak Prescott, they did what they had to do. But other than those two moves, did they really make any big moves at all? I mean, is it any wonder why Dallas is having the season they're having right now?
No, they did absolutely nothing. They were all in, as in, well, our players need to be all in if they want to get paid. Well, sorry, building a roster on like four superstars and a bunch of scrubs does not work in this league. You need to play complementary football, and the GM needs to figure it out.
Yeah, he does. Well, the Cowboys are just a one-trick pony, and that is passing it. They are, and here against a Niners team who usually has a top five defense. Knowing that your opponent's only going to pass the ball, well, that's a recipe for disaster for Dallas. And then, just like you said, Ed, Kyle Shanahan offense against this Dallas defense, especially in the red zone, is also a recipe for disaster for the Cowboys. So I feel like it's easy here to pick the Niners at home. I'm going to go 28-19. And yeah, Dak Prescott maybe getting another 100 yards in the fourth quarter or something just to kind of help get them a little bit more padded.
How about a prop bet in this game of 1.5 pick sixes by the Niners?
Well, hey, you can almost say the same with the Cowboys. I mean, seeing what Brock Purdy did last week, and I mean the Cowboys, they have a knack for pick sixes. So
They don't have
The
Michael
Niners,
Parsons though.
yeah, true.
the Niners corners, that is, as you pointed out, are really good.
Yeah.
So they could be out there lurking.
I'll go with I'll take the under on it though, but I there could very well be one. So, but yeah, I think the Niners will get back to 500 football, and who knows, maybe they'll have a big winning streak once they get their players back this year. But it just seems like it is a repeating merry-go-round of injuries throughout the NFL. So, hate to see it. I like to see every team at their full strength because it makes things more even, makes things more fun, especially for the fan. But that's about all we have today, folks. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Please continue to hit that like, subscribe button, share these videos, and of course, let us know your thoughts, your predictions, your opinions on the games that we have talked about and maybe the games that we haven't talked about. We really urge you to do that. We really look forward to hearing from you guys. But until next time, we are rounding third and we are headed for home.